In this video, we're going to try to install shocks on your Ford Taurus located behind your rear wheels. Using a 19mm socket, loosen and remove the lug nuts. With the lug nuts removed, you can now grab that wheel and remove it and set it aside. With the wheel removed, I want to go ahead and access the hardware for our sway bar end link. Now on the inside here on our particular model vehicle, it's a 17mm. This is going to hold the stud for the unit. And then on the outside here, we're going to use a 15mm deep socket to remove that nut. Reason why we have to remove that is that way there we can go ahead and undo this bolt and pull it out. When you use our 18mm socket here, you can use a deep socket to get you past the knuckle here, or you can use a shallow with an extension. Before we remove this bolt here, we're going to go ahead and put our jack underneath our control arm, and we're going to apply a little bit of upward pressure on this here. So let's go ahead and do that next. Let's go ahead and remove this the rest of the way. I'm going to go ahead and lower my jack now. You can see how this drops down a little bit further. I'm going to remove the jack. Now with the trunk lid open, I'm going to go ahead and access the top of our shock through this interior panel right here. Now I am physically inside the trunk, and you're probably going to have to do that yourself to do this. You're going to go ahead and reach up and you're going to grab this trunk liner and you want to pull this down. Now in the back right there, there's a little window through the steel, and there's going to be a couple insulation pads. Now you're going to put your hand inside this hole and you're going to reach down and you're going to find the shock tower. It's an 18mm nut on the top, and you're going to have to use a deep socket and then use your ratchet or an impact driver to go ahead, loosen and remove that nut. Now right here you can see the stud here. Now this is pointed straight up and down. This stud here is the shock stud itself, and the nut is an 18mm. So we're going to use a deep socket to get over the stud. We're going to use our impact driver to go ahead and try and loosen this here. I'm going to remove that. See if I can gather my socket here. Remove that with the insulator. Now at this point here, I'm going to go ahead underneath and grab that shock and pull that out. Now inside the wheel well, I'm going to go ahead and compress my lower portion of the shock. And let's go ahead and wiggle this. Tilt the shock back a little bit. You pull this down and out. On the top, there's a rubber grommet that has little nubs on it that when you put this up into place, it actually holds the shock up in there. Go ahead and take your new shock and take one of the insulators that you get, and you want to pay attention to the raised grommet right here on our bushing. I'm going to put the flat side down on the shock. I'm going to go ahead and press this up into the body. I'm going to feed this up and in. Now that little raised portion on the bushing itself should actually fit right into that hole. I'm going to push our shock up Now we're gonna let this drop down a little bit. And we're gonna get our lower bolt put in on our shock just to hold that in place for now. Go ahead and raise our shock into position. We're going to install our bolt, run that through. Now on the other side, we're going to install the supplied nut to go onto the bolt. I'm going to get it started, just a few threads. Now that nut is a 21 millimeter. I'm going to put my wrench on that. Then we're going to use our ratchet on the other side here, using our 18 millimeter. Now we have our jack set up underneath our control arm. What we have to do is raise this up, and we need to push the shock up into the mount into the trunk. As you're jacking this up, you need to go ahead and line up your shock so that that grommet fits inside that body hole. Go ahead and compress that into there. With that shock locked into place, let's now go ahead and install that nut inside the trunk. We're going to install the spacer here, the bushing. You want to make sure that this side here is installed down. It has the raised lip on it. So that needs to go face down. Press that in. And then we have the metal cap here. Drop that down into place. And we'll go ahead and get the nut started. Now we tried tightening down this nut here using our impact gun, but what was happening was that the shock shaft was spinning with the nut. So what we're going to do is we're going to use an 18 millimeter gear wrench swivel head. And then the top of the shaft here is an 8 millimeter, but it's not a socket, it's an 8 millimeter. So we have to use the wrench itself to hold the shock shaft. Now we're going to go ahead and torque down the nut to 41 foot-pounds. There it is. Go ahead and take the insulation blocks and tuck those in the back here. And then push the interior trim cover back up into place. Let's go ahead and lower our jack. And remove that. Get and torque down the lower shock bolt to 129 foot-pounds. Now we do have our wrench on the nut side to hold that. Now that we have our torque wrench off, go ahead and remove your wrench. I'm going to go ahead and put our jack underneath our sway bar just to assist us to lift this up into position. Go ahead and snug that down. Remove your jack if you happen to use that. Let's get and torque the nut to 41 foot-pounds. Now repeat for the other. Grab your wheel. Get that put onto the studs. Now we're going to go ahead and install all of our lug nuts by hand, and once we get them started, we're We'll go ahead and snug them down. When doing this here, it's preferred if you do it in a crisscross or a star pattern. Now let's go ahead and torque them down. Now let's go ahead and torque down our lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds. And preferably you want to do this in a crisscross pattern. And you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.